I'm testing out the new TaylorMade STEALTH driver against previous TaylorMade models to see if this new carbon face is the future or if it is just another gimmick. Now, I've got to say straight away that the TaylorMade STEALTH is going to be the most talked about driver of 2022. Very simply put, I don't think any other manufacturer has carbon faces within their makeup for releases this year. Now that's important because it gives TaylorMade a separate talking point to everybody else. And that is all that manufacturers are trying to do, to steal the conversation by having that unique selling point. And TaylorMade have done that so well, and it is a very standout club. It's simple as that. But of course, before we believe the hype, we need to have a look at the technology to see if it stands up and if this is actually going to give you performance benefits when compared to other models. And TaylorMade say this is going to redefine the market because this is a carbon wood compared to a metal wood, which obviously supplants from many years ago the wood. The drivers I'm going to be comparing today are the STEALTH Plus, the SIM2 and the original SIM. These are the lower spinning versions of the driver. Also out at the moment is the STEALTH driver, and that would be comparable to the SIM2 Max and the SIM Max. So TaylorMade have slightly changed up how they're wording and how they're presenting their drivers and clubs this year. So stay tuned for this massive head-to-head, which is going to be happening. I'm going to get out to the course, but I'm also going to be doing a lot of data testing here in the studio. Now, obviously, with this driver, we need to start with the club face. What is so special about it? And why have TaylorMade decided to whack it on the face of their drivers? So what TaylorMade have done with this driver when compared to their previous titanium clubs is layer 60 layers of carbon on top of each other. They've actually laid them at different depths as well so they can get their inverted cone within the face. This club face also has a polyurethane cover. It helps control spin, also helps channel water away from impact, but it's also to increase the resistance of the club face. Carbon, obviously if you're hitting that consistently without any protection, it's going to damage much quicker than would a titanium club face. Now it is pretty cool, I have to say. It is very noticeable. I'd actually preferred if they made that red a little bit more vibrant. It does pop a little bit, but I wouldn't mind if it was more, you know, if you're going to give us a carbon face and you're going to make it stand out even more. Go crazy with it. The other technology within the club head, it's actually a good amalgamation of the SIM and the SIM2. So the sliding weight track is back that was in the original SIM. So I think this is actually a big plus. Let's go see how this flies out on the golf course. Oh, I love that. I was expecting it to be a lot more standout. That's a great drive, by the way. So behind the ball, I've got to be honest, I think I still prefer the original SIM as far as that design. It's just a bit bolder. The red club face, it does have a nice contrast with the rest of the murdered out STEALTH club head, but I don't know, for such an exciting club, I just want it to look a little bit more exciting. It just looks a bit more like an ordinary driver. It does sit nice behind the ball. Oh, it certainly flies well. Look at that. That hung in the air beautifully. Sound-wise, again, when it's hit, it's not disappointing, but it's actually very similar to how a titanium driver would sound. It'd be nice if it had a really different sound. I was expecting it to be a lot more deader. I think what TaylorMade have done here is they've tried really hard to make this driver sound like a titanium driver so it doesn't put anybody off. There's some good drives here, by the way. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. It sounds nice, it feels good. And obviously TaylorMade need to appeal to a big wide-ranging audience who might not like the fact that if it did sound crazy and felt really dead, might think it was a terrible club. So I do get it, but yeah, I just want something a bit more oomphy. So for this carbon wood versus titanium wood TaylorMade off, I've got each head in 8 degrees and it's going to be set to that standard loft. I've got an X-Flex 60 gram Rogue shaft. I'm going to be looking to swing these about 120 miles an hour. That's going to be my gamer swing for this season. It should also give us an indication at a decent speed of how these clubs are going to perform. Now this Stealth Plus, this is going to be coming in at £499 recommended retail. Now, by the time that actually gets to a shop, I almost skied my new driver, that's going to be slightly less. The normal Stealth and the Stealth HD, they're going to be slightly cheaper, about £469. And again, that's probably going to come out slightly lower in the shops. So it's still expensive, but honestly, I kind of thought TaylorMade, after introducing something so new, would actually go ultra high, like over 500. So let's have a look at the data. There are some interesting results here. I actually managed to get my swing pretty consistent. So swing speeds with the SIM on average was 121.4, with the SIM2 121.6, and with the Stealth 121.6. Angles of attack, path, and strike patterns were also very similar. So I'm able to give these drivers a really good head-to-head comparison. Now, firstly, you probably won't be surprised that this carbon face, whilst it does actually give some differences, it's not going to completely revolutionize the driver market. I think this is a good starting point for potentially some very exciting changes. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. The original SIM for me is still the best looking driver out of these three. I just absolutely love it. I know looks are subjective, so I'm not gonna tell you what you should like the look of more, but I think this looks fantastic. Also, when you strike the SIM well, it just feels like it explodes off the club face, and you can get some absolutely massive drives. So I hit one out there at 345 yards and also 340 yards with the SIM. The big downside to this driver is whenever you wander from the center of the club face, you get absolutely destroyed by forgiveness, or lack of, especially out towards the toe. Now, all drivers, when you start to strike them out of the toe, they're generally going to be giving you a little bit less spin. But with the SIM, it just kills spin completely. So you're just not going to get any distance on off-center strikes. So my average backspin on the 10 shots was only 1400 with the SIM, which is way too low. But as far as looks, as far as distance, this is still an absolutely fantastic driver. The SIM2 was a definite improvement over the SIM as far as forgiveness was concerned. It gives a little bit more spin, a little bit more accuracy. I gained a little bit of ball speed with the SIM2, we're talking under a mile an hour, but it was there. But I felt this last year and I still feel it as well. Although the SIM2 did offer a few improvements over the SIM, it wasn't massive. Now, onto the Stealth. Potentially because of the bigger club face and because of weight savings, they have made this a little bit more forgiving. It does show. So I gained 2 miles an hour of ball speed over the original SIM, which again is not going to change the world, but again, it is there. My backspin was so much more consistent, up around 2000. That's going to launch the ball, keep it in the air, but also it's not going to spin loads once it lands. It's going to have that nice rainbow trajectory. And on off-center hits, the Stealth was simply better than these two drivers. I got about 7 yards more carry out of the Stealth, but overall distance, I was only 1 yard longer than these two drivers. So the Stealth isn't going to add you an extra 20 yards, I'm afraid to say. Sticking a carbon club face on this driver, whilst a fantastic feat of engineering, players aren't going to be seeing incredible increases in distance, but they may find improvements as far as consistency and accuracy are concerned, certainly on the off-center hits. The Stealth driver, I think, is a really good, really unique starting point for where carbon faces are going to go. I think this is going to be staying for the long term. And I'm excited to see how the technology does advance. But what TaylorMade have managed to do with this driver is introduce a completely different face, something very, very unique that performs slightly better than a titanium club face. But considering it gave me an extra few miles an hour ball speed, stick it in the back, see what happens. What do you think? Get down into the comments and let us know.